Travel all over the countryside, ask the Leylands, travel all over the countryside, ask the Leyland brothers. Whatever it is that you want to see, ask the Leylands, no matter whatever that happens to be, ask the Leyland brothers. Come on, me in and join in the fun, travel all over Australia.
Australia has most of the world's marsupials. In this program, we're going to look at some of the cutest, most commonly encountered ones, the nocturnal possums.
And then we're going to take a journey down one of the biggest rivers in New South Wales, the Clarence River. We travel from Grafton through to the Pacific Ocean. We look at the historical significance of this great waterway, and we look at some of the modern industry which it supports, like sugarcane growing near Maclean.
To find the subject of this letter from Kerry Gow in Barradine, New South Wales, we had to take our cameras and lights out into the cold night air in Tasmania. Kerry wrote and asked, "Have you ever seen brush-tailed possums on your travels, and where would you find them?" Well, in fact, you can find them all over Australia, Kerry, but at the moment we're in Tasmania and they're prolific down here. And as you can see, you can feed them by hand. They only come out at night. They spend most of the day curled up in a hollow log somewhere, so you wouldn't really see one of these unless you're out with a torch when you're camping somewhere in the bush.
The brush-tailed possum is widely distributed throughout Australia. It is strictly nocturnal and is often seen foraging around camping areas for food scraps. In the wild, brush-tailed possums eat grasses and the succulent young shoots of shrubs and trees. Orchardists find possums a nuisance, as they also like eating fruit. Captain Cook named the possum when he saw a ring-tailed possum on Cape York and recognised its resemblance to the American opossum. He accidentally spelt it possum in his journal. As it turned out, this was fortunate, as the American opossum is a flesh-eater and is distinctly different from the Australian vegetable-eating marsupial. Possums have adapted well to human habitation and thrive in city parks and country camping areas where they come down at night like this to accept food from passers-by. The brush-tailed possum varies in colour from area to area. Greys, blacks and reddish-browns are the most common. Albino, creams and a silver colour are relatively rare. The reddish animals are older individuals of the black and grey varieties. The brush-tailed possum is a partially protected species. In Tasmania, an open season is declared between June and August for 2 or 3 months. During this open season, when the brush-tails have their winter coats, they are snared for their commercially valuable fur. About 100,000 skins are taken annually in Tasmania alone. Possums are generally docile, but care must be taken when feeding them, as they can, if provoked, cause severe injury with their sharp claws and teeth. Males often fight viciously to protect their territory, which can often cover up to 7 acres. Breeding takes place in winter, with only one young being reared at a time. At birth, it weighs only 1/5 of a gram and is only 13 millimetres long. The young remain in the pouch for about 4 months. The brush-tailed possum is well established in the Australian bush scene, and at present is in no danger of being wiped out. The ring-tailed possum is found in the trees and rarely comes to ground. Its long tapered tail curls around branches in a ring-like fashion, acting as a 5th limb. The ringtail builds a domed nest about the size of a football in smaller trees and bushes. It uses its tail to carry building material to the nesting site. Ringtails are a gregarious species, and often a group of 4 or 5 can be found in one nest. When asleep, they are easy prey for a hungry goanna or a feral cat. Open seasons are sometimes declared on ringtails. During the years 1923 to 1955, a total of 7.5 million ringtails were killed for the fur industry. The brush-tailed and ring-tail possums are only two of the large variety of possums to be found in the Australian bush.
Well, at the moment we're heading north along the Pacific Highway towards Grafton, and we're trailering a 6-metre motor sailor. When we get there, we'll be putting it in the Clarence River and travelling downstream. This is in answer to a request from Mr. C. Stewart from Nowra in New South Wales, who writes and says that he has a trailer sailor of his own. He would like us to investigate some worthwhile waterways other than the usual lakes. Well, we think the Clarence River is a worthwhile waterway, and we're entering Grafton now, and we're just about to cross over the Clarence River on a most unusual bridge.
The bridge is unusual in that it carries the highway traffic and the railway, double-decker fashion, into the town of Grafton. Here we stock up with supplies for our week-long river journey. There are 2 launching ramps in Grafton, but the one just upstream from the bridge on the southern side of the river is the best because it also offers convenient jetties for loading of equipment and passengers. Although trailer sailor owners should first check to see if they have enough clearance under the bridge with their masts. Our journey down the Clarence starts at Grafton and takes us 70 kilometres to Yamba on the coast. Highlights on the way will include a cottonwood plantation where matches are produced, the river town of Lawrence, Maclean, the centre of the sugarcane region, Harwood Sugar Mill on Harwood Island, and the maze of 100 islands in the delta. In the morning, at low tide, we are stocked up and set off downstream. The first consideration is that unusual bridge. Our mast should clear with about 20 centimetres to spare. This bridge is the only one of its kind in the southern hemisphere, and once had an opening span, but it was sealed a few years ago and can now be opened only on 2 years' notice. This far upstream the water is fresh, but it's still affected by about 50 centimetres of tidal rise and fall. So check the tides if your mast is as tall as ours. Quite a few ocean-going yachts come as far upstream as Grafton, but the bridge limits their journey further. The Clarence is one of the biggest rivers in New South Wales. The first very obvious landmark on the northern bank of the river is Bryant and May Match Company's huge plantation of American cottonwood trees.
And when you consider that each of these cottonwood trees will produce about 750,000 matches, there's an awful lot of matches in this one plantation. We'll find out how those matches are produced.
These trees are Texas cottonwoods and hail from the Mississippi River in North America where they grow naturally. They're commonly called black poplars. They're particularly suited for matches because they have a high growth rate, reaching commercial size in about 11 years, and have straight grain timber necessary for producing matches. Loaded with about 16 tonnes of timber, the truck has only a short trip to the nearby factory where the matches are made. But these logs will be left for around 6 weeks before they can be used. If they're cut when fresh, the green timber tends to turn out bent matches. The first step in the process is to cut the trees into short logs, known as billets. The billets are cut into different lengths, 12, 8 and 6 matches long, according to the varying thicknesses of the log. After a further week's drying out time, the billets are stripped into lengths of veneer, the exact thickness of one match. The stacked veneers are then fed into a machine which slices across the veneers to a depth of 1 match thickness, producing in this case 12 matches from each layer on each slice of the blades. It takes about half a cubic metre of timber to produce 1 million matches. The match splints, as they are known, are dipped into a solution of monoammonium phosphate before being dried and shaken on an automatic sorter which rejects any defective matches. The chemical ensures that they will extinguish properly when blown out and will not continue to glow as untreated wood does. The splints are shipped to Melbourne, where the process is completed, and they end up as either green or redheads. Working our way downstream from the cottonwood plantation, the Clarence provides excellent sailing conditions. For the trailer sailor enthusiast, there are few shoals to worry about, and as most of the river is unprotected by trees, usually at least a light breeze to sail by. On this part of the river there are plenty of good spots for stopping overnight. By evening the wind has died, so we nudge our way into a small tributary using the diesel auxiliary motor. Our first day on the Clarence has been most interesting. There is still a lot of river yet to see. With luck, we could catch a fresh fish for breakfast too. Conditions in the morning are as still as possible, but the sky is clear, so we quickly tidy up and get underway. Early mornings on the Clarence are quiet and peaceful these days, but in the 1840s it was alive with activity. The squatters and cedar cutters were plying the river day and night. The Clarence was regarded as one of the richest river districts yet discovered in the colony. The true discoverers of the river were 4 escaped convicts who, fleeing from Moreton Bay in 1825, came to a huge river. When recaptured, they referred to it simply as the Big River. It continued to be referred to as the Big River until 1839, when it was officially named the Clarence. This section of the river bears little resemblance to the picture that presented itself to the first sailors that came up the Clarence. After the cedar was completely cut out, the pastoralist moved in and cleared the remaining bush.
Well, we've reached about halfway down the Clarence, and we'll return to the second half of our story in a moment. Well, at this point in our journey down the Clarence River, we're entering sugarcane country. We're going past lots of sugarcane now on the banks. And this brings us to a second letter. It's this one here from Sandra Cole from Blacktown in New South Wales. It says very simply, "Dear Mike and Mel, I would like to see how people make sugar out of sugarcane."
Sugar is now the Clarence River's major industry, and as we travel the lower parts of the river, the banks present a continual procession of sugarcane. In the old days, the river was vital to the industry. The cane grows on the banks and was once transported to the crushing mills by 30-ton barges. The Clarence is as far south as sugarcane can be successfully grown. In the 1870s and 1880s, the sugar boom was on, and at least 50 mills were operating on the Clarence at any one time. At the height of the season, the barges were running up and down the Clarence endlessly. Loading was often carried out manually, whereby men would carry large loads of hand-cut cane along planks. This was known as shin-sticking and considered the hardest work of all. These days, the barges have disappeared on the Clarence, and the only reminders of those boom days are the numerous disused derricks that now line the banks. The sugar industry has foregone the waterway for the highway, but the economy of river towns like Maclean still revolve around sugar. This week is very special in Maclean. It is the height of the crushing season, and the annual sugarcane harvest festival is underway. It's only a short walk from the riverside wharf to the main street where the activity is.
Representing the Maclean Hospital and the Queen's Quest competition. Make Maclean Hotel.
The festival attracts more than Maclean's population of 3,000, and like any festival, there is not only the procession, but also a sugarcane princess competition for the local girls to contest. At night, the interest focuses on the river, as 10 old-time sugarcane barges, no longer used for hauling cane, are towed down the river displaying hundreds of coloured lights as part of the Venetian Carnival, as the promoters call it. One of the barges carries the newly crowned princess, who lands and makes her first public appearance before the Maclean townsfolk. On board the yacht, we bed down for the night, as we'll need to be up early to catch low tide. Just downstream from Maclean, there is another bridge which we should just clear, but only at low tide. When the early morning fog clears shortly after sunrise, we can just make it under the bridge without lowering our mast. For larger boats, the bridge does open, leaving a clearance of about 30 metres. The bridge connects the mainland with Harwood Island, where the only remaining sugar mill operates on the Clarence River. Rusting slowly into oblivion, the old cane barges line the banks as silent reminders of the bygone years when the Clarence was one of the busiest waterways in New South Wales. Each barge could carry 30 tonnes, and the last of them saw service as recently as 1975. Now the mechanical harvesting has taken over from hand cutting, loading of the barges is no longer practical, and road transport has taken over. Burning the cane hasn't changed, and is still the first stage of harvesting. The fire burns off all the unwanted rubbish, leaving only bare sticks of cane ready for harvesting. But the harvest must be carried out within 48 hours, or the sugar deteriorates. The modern harvesting machine makes short work of cutting the cane, a far cry from the old methods when men, wielding sharp knives, would individually hand-cut each stalk. These complex machines work every day throughout the season, which lasts from May through to December, and each machine harvests around 200 tonnes of cane per day. When the bins are full, the tractor takes them to a loading point where large semi-trailers pick them up and haul around 15 tonnes at a time to the Harwood mill. Here, the first stage is to weigh the load so that the farmer can be credited with his correct crop. The Harwood mill processes around 400,000 tonnes of cane each year. A sample of the cane is removed from each harvest to determine the percentage of unwanted material contained, as the farmer is paid according to the yield of actual sugar produced and not by the tonnage of cane. The sugar yield varies according to farming techniques and soil conditions. Most cane in the Clarence River district is grown for 2 years before harvesting, where Queensland cane can be harvested every year. The cane is crushed by giant rollers to extract the cane juice, and the juice is then treated by a complex system of processes to produce the raw sugar. The first step is the removal of mud from the juice. It's sucked through a filter by a vacuum, leaving clear syrup, which is then boiled down and crystallised to produce 2 products, molasses and raw sugar.
Well, here we are at the end product of our story, at least as far as the Harwood sugar mill is concerned. For Sandra Cole and all those other people, I think you may have some idea now of how our normal sugar is produced. This is raw sugar here. It's not the final white product that you're used to using in your cups of tea. It must be refined further to produce that.
The raw sugar is shipped from the mill to Sydney, where it is refined to the familiar white crystals. The molasses is turned into industrial alcohol and rum. These ships transporting the sugar are now the only time the river plays any part in the operation, where one time the whole industry depended on the Clarence. From here on, our journey downstream can take many turns, for the delta region of the river is a maze of 100 islands. Many of the channels between the islands are shallow, and for larger boats it's safer to stick to the well-defined recommended course marked on the charts. This part of the river alone is an area where the keen boating enthusiast could spend a week without going over the same ground twice. Our journey down the Clarence has taken us almost a week, and we are now reaching the ocean. On the southern side of the river is the fishing town of Yamba. Many fishing and prawning boats operate out of here, and it presents a delightful spot to conclude our story. We hope that this has given Mr. C. Stewart some ideas of where he might like to use his sailing boat. For us, we drop anchor for the last time in the Clarence, in the very bay where Captain Matthew Flinders anchored his survey ship Investigator in 1802, whilst circumnavigating Australia.
Travel all over the countryside, ask the Leylands, ask the Leylands. Travel all over the countryside, ask the Leyland brothers. Whatever it is that you want to see, ask the Leylands, ask the Leylands. No matter whatever that happens to be, ask the Leyland brothers. Come on, me in it and join in the fun. Travel all over Australia. Ask the Leyland, ask the Leyland, ask the Leyland brothers.